welcome to the July meeting of the Philipstown Conservation Board. So our first order of business is approving the minutes for May. Do I have a motion to do such?
Make the motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna, first part of business is going to be Bresnan.
Good evening. My name is Tom Lewis with Trillium Invasive Species Management, and the Bresnan project is kind of a resumption of a wetland maintenance that and kind of a field maintenance that we've been doing starting, I think I forget exactly, I think 2017. We had permits for that then. We were working primarily on black swallowwort and treating the field. But
Can you come a little closer to the mic?
and it was being mown at the time. We treated for a few years, and then it was kind of, I guess, in a good enough spot. Got left for a while, and the mowing ceased about 2 years ago, and now it's a field of multiflora rose, and so we're asking to go in and be able to treat sections of it over a couple years. We're not going to treat the whole field, but the plan is to do just iterations throughout it. Section, I don't know, it's not really drawn which sections we're going to do, but just portions of it for each year.
And this is
Pretty simple
predominantly
and cut
now
and dry.
woody,
Sorry?
right? It's predominantly woody growth that we're going after?
This is multiflora rose, so it's like a large invasive shrub. It's mostly woody. It's been mown for several years, so it's all kind of about this high, which is a pretty good. That's kind of how we would like to start treating this kind of a plant, anyways, by cutting it back and letting it regrow. So it's kind of set up for us to already start. We're not going to be spraying like giant 12-foot tall shrubs or anything. Most of the field has been hayed for a long time, so it's a lot of old, like cool season grasses. So there isn't a lot of diversity within the field itself. And after we do our work, we're going to kind of see what comes back from it, and probably do some replanting, and if not seeding, or seeding if not replanting after the fact. Yeah, the Hudson Highlands Trust, yeah, land trust. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, there's two types of application you're doing. One is it's mainly on the edge, and a section that I guess is to the south, which is the shrubby area, and the other is going after the famed black swallowwort.
Yeah,
Field.
the black swallow is primarily like in upland portions of the meadow, which is where we've been treating it. It's on a lot of the edges also, and then there are some shrubs along the edges of the field that we'll be treating also. But really, the kind of wet part of the meadow is.
I mean, I know some of us visited the site quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole field.
So, do we have any thoughts, suggestions, comments?
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So,
I'm okay.
that's it. Everybody fine? So, do I have a motion to approve a permit?
Make that motion to approve the permit?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Cool. It's easy.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So we're going to move to the famed New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Good evening.
We are seeking approval for some in-stream work and some work in the 100-foot buffer of the stream to repair the head wall of a culvert associated with the city's Catskill Aqueduct. The section of the head wall concrete has deteriorated over the last century or so, so we'd like to get in there and cut out and replace the bad concrete. To do that, we have to cut down a steep slope, bypass the stream around the work area, do some temporary grading to support that, and allow the concrete to set.
What? Yeah, I think we should have a site visit. When do you want to do the work?
We would be probably looking to do the work, I want to say as soon as possible. I believe we have a tree cutting restriction with bats, so after the 1st of November.
So, yeah, I do think we should do a site visit, but we're also planning theoretically not to have a meeting in August.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm asking, when do you think you're actually going to do work?
It would be after November.
It would be after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what I'd like to do is set a site visit, and it would be great to have a representative from the DEP there.
Yes, I think with our security protocols and everything, you'd need a DEP representative on site. And we can, work with the office to arrange that.
Okay. So you can set that up yourself?
Me personally, I can process the paperwork.
Okay.
I'll say that, yes. I would probably be the one there doing it.
Okay.
But I have to, notify the managers and process, I think, a security clearance form, I would
So-
expect.
So Cheryl, do we have information that we can reach out? Okay. And we'll set up a site visit so that it'll be done way before. Because I think we're going to want to see basically access and look at the steep slope.
Okay.
But I don't really see any problems in this whatsoever.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Reach out for a visit.
Great, thank you. It was easy. All right, Hudson Highland Reserve. So we've been out in the field, right? We've seen this. And at this point, the question is, are we ready? And I think we probably should be to give a conditional permit. And the conditions that I think need to be there is they're going to need approval from the New York DEC. I don't know if there's anything from the DOT whatsoever. And I think the
Well,
other...
there's a DOT permit involved in it. We
Right.
would certainly have to have that permit in place to do the work we're
Right.
talking about.
And I think the other condition should be if anything changes in the overall site plan to the project that might affect this, that they would have to come back to us. I'm not sure if there's really much else that we need to have in there.
No, I think all questions were answered.
Yeah. So, we comfortable with that, Max?
Yeah, I thought the plans were, the plans they provided were,
Yeah.
they met everything that we had asked for, so.
So, and I think the conditions are fair and easy to go by. All right. With that, do I have a motion to approve a conditional permit?
I'll make that motion.
Second, please. All in favor?
Diversity. Aye.
Aye. Okay, this has got to be a record.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Prins?
Thank you and good evening. I'd first like to take a moment to update you with what's been going on in the marsh. The cattails have been repopulating some of the bare spots already. I planted 600 plugs of broad and narrow leaf cattails, two kinds of rushes and smaller amounts along the fringes of Joe Pye weed, ironweed, Asclepias, and native iris. And I dug up hundreds of loosestrife because we've had bare exposed areas now, and I can actually, get to them and get the roots out, pretty much. I've been keeping the young mugwort and loosestrife at bay. I go in every week and just pluck out the young ones, keep them from getting started. And I'm planning to seed the wetlands, especially the fringe area, with pinelands, wetlands mix this fall. And I'm also cleaning up that field by the railroad tracks and plan to seed that with grass. Native grass is a meadow mix this fall.
The field by the railroad track.
You know, when you come down the road and you turn that final corner, below you there's a field that runs down to the marsh along the railroad tracks. It's maybe half an acre.
It's like in between the marsh and the river and the tracks.
And marsh and the tracks and the marsh and the internal road. Yeah. So that's just to keep you guys apprised of what's going on. It looks to me like it'll probably take 2 years if we don't have another horrible storm like last year for it to be looking pretty good again. And then the main thing for this evening is after we got our approval, then, you know, we called the engineers in and so forth to do the detail work. And that has led to a couple of changes, that and discussions with the Department of Health. And Max didn't feel comfortable in signing off on them by himself. So I said, well, let's just wait until we're pretty much ready to file with the building department, and then I'll come back to you. So that's tonight. I detailed everything in a memo for you. I'm happy to answer questions, happy to summarize anything.
Yeah, I'd love you to walk us through it. I'm sort of looking at it, and Max or anybody else, please jump in. We have changes with the pool, and I'm going to tie the pool somewhat in with the extension on the house. Then we have the septic, and now you want to use geothermal, so we have some drilling. So let's just sort of separate it into 3 buckets. I think it's going to be easier to understand for everybody.
Yeah, so what do you want to do?
Let's do the geothermal last.
Yeah, what do you want to do first? Nothing changed on the extension of the house. That's as in January.
Okay.
The addition, the only thing basically that changed is we moved it a foot over so that we didn't have to dig up the patio in order to put the footing in. We changed the direction of the roof drainage so that it's more naturally draining into the pipe that runs along the side of the house into the cool techs. Otherwise, that's pretty much the same. And it actually saves us, I think it was 17 feet of steep slope in the redesign. Then on the pool, what we've done is I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to get approval for a 4-bedroom system with a waiver from local Putnam County standards for how far away from the above-ground retaining wall for the pool the first tranche in a reserve would have to be. We're okay on the main actual drainage field. It's just the reserve. So in order to help that along, we've moved the pool north somewhat. But in order to minimize how much extra steep slope we were using, we also cantilevered the deck 2 feet over the retaining wall. So that means we've basically only had to push the pool back 2 feet instead of 4 or 5 feet. That saves about 400 feet in wetlands buffer, 400 square feet of wetlands buffer at the expense of 150 feet of steep slope. We're still, you know, well within the steep slope limitation. Total went up by, I think, 180 feet, 150 feet. We're still under 1,700 square feet. And we streamlined the machinery room to use less steep slope, and
That's marked on the map as pool room. right? The machinery
No,
room?
it's marked on the map
Okay,
as
I see it. Yeah, yeah,
machine,
I see it,
machine
okay.
room. It used to take up more space on the, it was like 15 feet across. Now it's only 8 feet across, but it runs a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just refresh my memory? I feel like I remember the pool house was above the machine room at one point?
Was above the what?
The machine room? Were they
No,
stacked together?
no, well, yes, there was one time when the pool house was gonna be on the east of the pool.
Yes, yes.
But last fall, we moved it to the north.
Okay, I'm having a,
Because otherwise,
moment. I don't
the
remember that
pool and the
happening.
pool house were getting, so long. It was just
yeah.
eating up too much of the vista.
So now it's gonna be cut and fill, it's gonna cut into the slope, the pool house, more than it was before.
A little bit, yes, because we pushed the pool back 2 feet for the Department of Health.
Okay.
And the pool shape has changed.
Yeah.
The pool
noticed that.
itself is exactly the same.
I remember a rectangular pool here.
That was a long time ago,
Yeah, I remember that too.
Okay.
yeah. I think if I open up my ones from November, it'll show what the pool is now.
So my biggest question is, which is going back to the, you've moved the pool, where, because this is not marked on the plans or I'm missing it, where is the auxiliary field?
The septic fields are not marked at all right now.
Right, so what I'm asking is,
So the idea is, and I very, very carefully measured 100 feet from the stream, because I would need a state waiver to go closer than 100 feet from the stream. And under the new Department of Health regulations, which are now 100 gallons per bedroom instead of 150, and they are now giving the ETU 33% credit if you're not in the watershed area. So we need 137 or 147 feet instead of, it used to be 220. That gives us basically enough room for the reserve
the
to be
expansion area.
positioned to the north of the actual drain field, between the drain field and the pool retaining wall,
That driveway.
if it were ever needed. Yeah, all of it's out of the driveway.
Yeah, but the existing septic is behind that wall in front of the house, right?
The existing septic, if you were standing at the first set of steps to go up, if you turned around to the river and walked 30 feet, you would be on top of the septic tank.
So what I'm asking is, it's twofold now. One is, where is the expansion area? Because it's not marked on the map. Where is it gonna be? You're
Yeah, because I don't have the design yet from
Okay,
Andy.
but you're telling us that it'll be to the south of the pool, but it will be outside of the 100-foot stream
Yeah,
buffer.
I'll show you.
That's the expansion field, not
Yeah.
the actual.
The expansion
This is
field.
probably
the reserve
the,
expansion.
The one with the swimming pool is maybe the best map to use.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, the actual drain field will be here. And the reserve will be between it and the retaining wall.
Okay, so we're out of the buffer there.
We're
Stream.
out of the stream,
Buffer,
We're
right?
still in a wetlands buffer.
but we're in the
The
Philipstown
wetlands down.
wetlands.
Yes,
Not a wetlands for the state.
right, because it's not 12.4 acres. All right,
Well, actually, because it's tidal influenced, and it's defined as other than a wetlands, and it isn't currently governed.
okay, and then moving to the new septic system, we're gonna be using some of the footprint and then some from what the existing septic is. True? Just refresh my memory.
Yes, although we had an outfit out to figure out how many feet of drainage trench we have.
Mhm.
And we have 0. We have a septic tank, and we have a 25-foot pipe to an open pit.
Okay, so we don't really have a septic, right? Okay.
So
Yeah, that's okay.
we
Which
saw
was,
plans.
you know,
for a
approved.
septic field when
That was,
the
I was
previous
there.
owner owned this
Yes.
I was
property.
there when the ground was opened up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was approved that way in 1993.
Yeah, but back
No,
then-
this is,
back then
this is,
something had been
this
built.
is after that.
Oh, yeah, okay. And, you know, at the same time, I have now found out that's when they switched their drinking water from the stream to a well. Before that, they drank water out of the stream.
All right, well, we can't hold you responsible for what the previous owner did.
But I feel like I'd like to, that's gotta be in the file somewhere.
Yes, it absolutely
I
is.
remember when the ground was opened up there,
Yeah,
and I saw that lawn wasn't a lawn for a long time. That lawn was created as a septic field.
I
So-
bet,
that's
I
not
bet.
that long ago.
No,
I
that
mean, that
was-
wasn't when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah.
That was,
Because all that Mr. Banker had to do was get it certified as, yes, it's a 3-bedroom tank. Everything else was grandfathered. And it is a 3-bedroom tank. So I think
remember that.
everybody's gonna be happy when we put a new septic system in with a Fuji clean.
I would.
Yeah. Yeah, my son, I guess, was 10 years old when he started following this for a school project. and he's,
He'll be out of college. by the
He'll
time-
be a junior
Right, we're
in the
going.
fall, so in college, okay.
wow.
Youch, okay, okay. All right, so we're assuming at this point that the septic system, both the expansion field and the existing septic, will be outside.
Yes, it'll be done, it'll be approved, and if for some reason, I've talked with Dylan Holger, he's talked with his boss, they don't see why they wouldn't give a waiver for the pool wall because of the nature of the pool and everything else. If for some reason that doesn't work, we've still got the backup to put it on the other lot.
Right,
And that, we don't need any waivers from anybody.
right, right. Does everybody remember where that is?
Yes.
Okay. Then let's jump on to where the geothermal wells are gonna go.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned that already in 2022 when, in our first filing, that would be our intent. And I don't know how much you know about geothermal technology, but the ground loop stuff doesn't work very well because nobody puts it deep enough and over the years it warms up and gets real cold in the winter and it doesn't work very well. Vertical bores work well and stand the test of time. They're about 5 inches to 6 inches in diameter. They go like 400 feet deep, and they run the loop up and, down and back up, and then they fill it with bentonite, inert clay. So it's basically, goes back to what it was, kind of. And in order to optimize not raising and lowering temperatures, they like to keep them 30 feet away from each other. If that machine can get up to the pool area when we're doing the excavation for that, then we can dig 2 and maybe 3 of those outside of the buffer even, right on the back of where the pool will be. If that machine,
It's a 6-inch hole, right? Like, kind of like a well.
yeah, it's basically a well hole.
So you're talking about a loop, because I had investigated geothermal ages ago. Are they still doing single wells now, not a double well?
It's you know, when I did one out on the island 20 years ago now, they dug a second well and you pulled water up and you sent the water back down a second pipe.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, so
Yeah, they don't do it that way anymore.
it's a single boring, right?
So now it's a single bore, right? And you put a pipe down to the bottom and it loops at the bottom and comes back up. And then you put in as many holes as you need in order to get the number of kilowatt hours that you need in order to run everything.
So I think just our concern there becomes tailings and machinery.
During construction.
Yeah.
Have you done any sort of, I mean, I just am, I'm skeptical about how much depth you can get there, right, without,
You can go to
No.
China if you had enough machinery.
When you
Yeah,
say
they
depth,
they
you mean-
do, they do 400 feet quite routinely.
So you think, what, depth, because being near the Hudson?
yeah,
It's funny that we had the DEP in here ages ago. I wrote a script for somebody about the water system. Certain areas of the Hudson, you know, you go down forever before hitting bedrock, and other areas, bedrock is right there.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, just the geotech in that particular area seems to be, anyway, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm just,
I don't either,
I'm
and
curious.
I've
I'm
asked the
curious.
question, and I am told, both in my reading and research and by the outfit I'm consulting with, that the thing about a hole is you never know what you're gonna find until you actually dig it. You can have granite 500 feet down here and 20 feet over, you don't have it. It's,
yeah.
they can't tell you in advance.
So how many borings are you hoping for?
He expects 4.
Okay.
All outside the buffer?
All, what?
All outside of the buffer?
Possibly none outside of the buffer.
I think that would want it, we'd want the locations to be
Yeah.
marked.
It depends on what the machines can do.
Yeah,
As I said, if they can get up where we're doing the pool excavation, because it's a typical kind of well rig, right? And they don't have the kind of traction and everything else that the earth-moving equipment does. But if it can get up there, then we can put probably 3 outside of the buffer.
so is there a place on the map you could draw a general area where that's basically what's the only acceptable place on your plan set?
Well, I don't have it with me. I did some testing by myself, and as I said, if the machinery can get up there, then at most, probably one will be in the wetland or the stream buffer. If they can't get up there, then they'll probably all be within the buffer, but unless the Department of Health has a problem, they'll be right by the retaining wall.
That's only like a 2-foot high retaining wall now, right?
A 2-foot,
Yeah, with the proposed pool area. It's not that high, that retaining wall, is it?
The existing.
oh,
Existing.
the existing one is just a little knee wall, yeah.
Well, they should be able to get up in there.
Yeah, and there's a spot, I mean, when Polhemus does the rock chopping there, he'll come
Make
up.
a ramp.
He'll kind of have a ramp, so I'm thinking that the machinery ought to be able to get up in there. But as I said in the note, I think that's a field condition. I can't swear that that's how it's gonna happen.
I don't see it being a problem.
Yeah, and it's all inert, so in the end, you know, it's a temporary disturbance, just like digging a well.
But none of that would be, you wouldn't be doing any of that in a steep slopes area, right? That wasn't taken into your calculation.
I'm sorry, what?
The steep slopes impacts?
Yes, if we do it at the back of the pool, it'll be in the part that we've already disturbed.
Okay.
So it's not gonna be any
It
additional.
would be under the pool.
No, it'll be right in the back, in back of the pool. Because he doesn't want to put it under existing construction, although I don't see why not. I'll maybe push him on that, because, you know, if someday, 75 years from now, it fails, you're going to dig a new one, right?
Right, and if, I assume the technology is still the same, where you're not using submersible pumps. The pumps are within the system itself, in the house or whatever mechanical building
Yeah,
you're
the
using.
pumps will be in the machinery room. There'll be 2 units. They're basically, you know, you get 5 kilowatts of power out for 1 kilowatt in, as long as you can keep your temperatures stable. It's a great thing if it works.
Questions, comments?
I'm okay with the changes. The only thing at the end here, it's asking that Max be the only one that goes down there. And I think that's, if he's okay with it, but I think that's putting a lot onto him. So that's the only changes I would go for.
I agree with that, as well as sequencing. Right now, because it's been a while, the house right now is 3 bedrooms, right? Approved as 3 bedrooms, and you're adding the 4th bedroom.
Right.
Okay, so that's fine with that. So right now, we don't want to hold you up, but I do think there needs to be a finalized septic plan,
Yeah, I agree.
right?
I mean, we had
I
that
mean, you
before.
have a permit for this right now, but
Yeah,
there's
but
been
it hasn't
slight
been
changes.
issued because I haven't signed it, because I knew there were going to be some changes, and why have one permit and then have to have another permit?
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think anything is that manifestly altered right now, right? Unless all of a sudden, you know, the Board of Health comes back to you and says, you know, no, the septic's not working. And then you have a Plan B, so we would just need to alter for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, procedurally, I don't think he needs a different permit right now.
I think I would just reference the new drawings and then
Yeah.
reissue the permit.
Yeah, reference the new drawings, and maybe there was that one note that I was going to add about the septic, just laying out that you guys were in support of us getting a 4-bedroom if we can get a 4-bedroom. And as I said in the last section or so, you know, depending on field conditions for the geothermal, or if the Department of Health says, can you move the pool back 1 more foot? You know, it would be great if Max could sign off on them rather than having to come back to you. And I also mentioned that if in fact we're successful with minimizing steep slope, then those 2 parts of the pool deck that are currently, you know, elevated and cantilevered, I would probably put some fill in it. Won't take very much. But as long as we're clearly safe on the 2,000-foot limitation, that would make for a better overall situation.
I want to double down on the idea that Max needs to make that determination whether it needs to come back to us or not, right? I mean,
I guess I'm just a little bit, I mean, I would rather have you sign the permit and we issue the permit when the Department of Health gives you what they need, and if they say we need the pool moved back, then that's done, and you can show them that, either the meeting minutes, or you can show them the permit in hand that you have, that this is what we've agreed to. You know, I rather would not work so much on field speculations and making these like minor changes. I mean, a foot here and there, for me, I wouldn't be able to notice that in the field.
Yeah, although we're still going to have the possibility of minor changes when we go actually do the rock chopping.
Yeah, I mean, that
et cetera.
concerns me a little bit, because there's been this whole game of being so close or far away from the 2,000 square foot disturbance line. So, and I think that's why we've all had that concern. So, even our engineers had that concern. So that, you know, field changes, putting that back on me to be able to go out there and remeasure everything, or however you would see that happening is not, I wouldn't want to do that. It's not appropriate for me. You know, that's my biggest concern. I don't want to keep changing the plans so that you keep impacting and getting closer to that 2,000 square foot limit if needed. You know, if that, you know, this is what we agreed on, essentially. I don't think any of these changes are major in any way. I think,
Oh, I think net, they're beneficial from a conservation board point of view,
but yeah, if the health department pushes back and needs something else, and that changes how far into the steep slopes you need to go, then this kind of
Yeah.
becomes null and void again.
well, I got it. It's a little bit of the cart and the horse, right? I can't file with the building department until I have your wetlands permit in my hand, signed by everybody, and the Department of Health.
Did we issue a conditional permit on this once already? Or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We did.
So
So
right
we just
now-
take this wording out, we should be okay.
So, well, also, right now, I mean, one of the conditions was you basically getting approval from the Board of Health.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I think if you get approval from the Board of Health, I mean, basically you have a permit, you know, that's usable, that shouldn't be a problem with the building department whatsoever. I mean, what might be helpful, when I say easier done said than done, is to stake out, you know, we know where the steep slopes are, is stake out what would be a maximum boundary where you hit, you know, 1,999 feet, just visual. And that, I think, would also help, whether it's the building inspector or Max going out, will know, you know, if you've crossed that line, well, that's a problem.
Yeah, or it can even be tighter than that and stake out what we have said, we don't think will,
That's
in
fine,
any
too.
way will exceed this.
Right. But I think right now, I think the one thing that's missing in the puzzle is just getting the Board of Health approved.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
seeing that septic plan on.
Right.
Yeah,
on a
and
map.
I should get a design from him tomorrow or Thursday. He said midweek. And then I've got to look at it, he's got to look at it, and then we go over the wording of the waiver request, and hopefully we file, except I'm away all of next week, so we can't file till the last week of July.
Okay, so, I mean, I think we have a plan.
Do we, I feel like I've blanked out on this. It wasn't that long ago.
It's been a while.
But do we have a mitigation plan for this as well? Wasn't there? And
Yeah.
that's related to Mr. Prin's work with the, you know, with the wetland and
Yeah.
the
With the,
plantings?
especially the invasive species, but
Yep.
also
Right.
repopulating what we had.
Yep.
So have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, all this was,
Recently?
in November, we approved the conditional permit with those plans.
Right.
We wrote up a conditional permit, and that's where it stood until we got these changes, and then you're presenting them now, basically.
Okay. But
As-
you haven't been down there to
No, I
see
mean,
the
I-
work or, yeah.
No. And nothing started.
As well as using the Fuji system was also part of it.
Right.
Yeah,
I
right,
do
yeah.
remember that.
And we agreed to that, whether
Yep.
we get 4 or only 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. So I think, you know, let's keep all our fingers crossed on the Board of Health.
Yeah.
And if for some reason something changes, then we'll figure out how to alter what we have. I mean, in the ideal world, when do you want to start construction?
Ideally, mid to late October,
Okay.
beginning of November, you know, get the fall in, and then
Yep,
if we
okay.
disappear for a month while they're doing the heavy stuff, you know, so what?
Okay. I think that's reasonable. Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
I don't even know if we have to reference that. I think it's just,
It doesn't
just be a plan, I'll just change the note on the plan.
Okay, so I think we should move to the, we'll call it the pavilion at the Desmond Fish Library. I think 5 of us were there. Bob is not with us today, and I believe, Tony, you're familiar with it. So we have to send a memo to the planning board. I mean, in my mind, I think it's totally fine. I think the only thing that I would like to see is, the drain, there's sort of, we're dealing with a field that goes into various, some wetlands, some wet meadows and what have you. I think rather than necessarily a full traditional, French drain, that whatever, and Tony had spoken to me about this, and I agree with it, there is a flow that goes from, I guess it would be northeast to southwest, sort of, there's a flow.
George was mentioning that.
Yeah,
Harris.
so that, possibly, whether it's done on the outside of the building or underneath the building, that we maintain that flow.
Yeah, because there's a drainage ditch there
Right.
when it gets to be too much, that takes the excess. Because there's a lot of water that comes down off that mountain behind there.
Excuse me? Yeah, okay, we're not talking about Bass. No. We're talking about Desmond Fish Library. So,
Yeah, if you have a drainage plan, I think that, because the water's gotta go
you and I,
somewhere.
Max, will talk and we'll figure out how to do it. It's just a couple sentence memo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they had talked to us about that.
They
when
were-
we
yeah, they
there,
were-
And they said
they
there
were
was gonna be a
talking-
swale in the front, and that they were gonna
The swale,
regrade.
the way
on the
I was
east.
reading it was more a swale to absorb water rather than, I think part of it has to absorb water, but there is we'll call it a water budget, a water flow on that property that I think should be maintained. So, I don't
Yeah.
think it's a big deal. And it might be simpler actually than what they were planning. So,
Alright.
okay.
So you're gonna write the memo for?
Yeah, Max and I will figure
Okay.
it out, yeah, I mean,
Great.
I think we're talking 2 or 3 sentences
Good.
at most. Okay, let's move on to Vasta.
I have a question before we get started with that.
Yep,
Do we have an application for a permit? I haven't seen that anywhere
for,
for what's going on down there.
right now, we're just at the point of, it's a referral from the planning board.
Okay,
Specifically to steep slopes. We had done a site visit, I think 4 or 5 of us were there, and we were expecting your engineer to be there, who did not show up. Well, it put us at a big handicap.
then I have another question when you get done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other question is, I don't know, now, I understand that there's violations existing on this property already. So can we proceed with anything if there's existing violations?
Well, that's what we should talk about right now. And realize what we're doing, Tony, is essentially we're gonna put together a memo, just like we're doing with the library. What are our thoughts on this? And I think, we're sort of handicapped by the fact that we didn't have an engineer on site. And actually, we didn't even have full-scale plans. So basically, we had a small PDF file and I'm really great with that stuff. Even reading it on a big screen on my computer was very, very difficult to see. And the plan is missing a lot of things, like, the plan itself is putting in all forms of retaining walls for the driveway, for the septic system. I don't know if it's doing it for the house, I don't remember. But normally there's also, what type of mitigations for drainage are being done. That does not seem to really exist within it. So, I'm just sort of curious of everybody's thoughts, but I don't think we're really at a point that we can provide a useful memo to the planning board, and I think, as Tony brought up, I think there are grave concerns about the amount of violations on the property.
Do we know how many violations there are?
Yeah, the code enforcement officer, I think, spoke with Madeline today, and he also submitted an email.
Yeah, there was an email that was
listed
sent to
out.
us, I'm just
I
pulling it up.
didn't see that.
2
I think it's all, it's,
Yeah, I read the email though.
yeah.
It's-
I mean, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's been remedied or not. Disturbance of greater than 2,000 square feet from code 175-34F, filling in with greater than 100 yards of fill without permitting, 175-34F, construction of a driveway without permits and proper bonds, 175-43A, disturbance of steep slopes, 175-36, filling and blocking intermittent waterway, which is chapter 93, demolition debris as fill sourced from outside the town, 175-50, removal of 2 separately posted stop work orders, debris dumped and placed in violation of New York State 2020 Property Maintenance Code, and also not directly on Lot 9 of Cliffside, working with controlled waterways without permits while placing pipes across both upland and Cliffside, which falls into 93. Materials that were on the number 9 lot have been removed further up on upland and have been dumped on what appears to be Putnam County property and along the roadway. Not only was a letter of no violation ever requested, one would not be able to be issued due to the above. As of today, some of these violations are still not remediated.
I don't see how we could possibly.
Yeah, I don't either, but go ahead. Up,
Go up to the mic.
and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
My name's Luis Ruiz. I'm Amanda Vasta's fiance. I do apologize that our engineer did not show up. So we've remedied 99% of the violations. The only violations that still stand are the millings that were there as the driveway that we used in order to get the machine up to do the test holes for the Board of Health approval. We just yesterday saw the zoning board for the steep slopes variance that was granted. And then the zoning board.
What board?
The Zoning Board of Appeals, so
Oh,
within,
okay.
so, just as a background, in 2021, the town adopted, it's the Upland Drive Development District and the Ridge Drive Development District because of a large amount of non-conforming lots that exist within Continental Village. And within, it's 175-18.2, within subsection C, subsection 5, this is just going to answer your question, Tony. Steep terrain and ridgeline protection regulations of Code 175-36 shall apply. In addition, disturbances of slopes of 30% or greater for the purpose other than those listed in 175-36B1 require a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So the zoning board basically gave a variance, theoretically. The variance is to allow a driveway, but the zoning board does not really necessarily get into the engineering details, the drainage
Oh, okay.
details, et cetera.
So that would be like a conditional variance?
I guess so. I mean, I don't think
We
there's really
did
such thing
supply
as,
them
yeah.
with the drainage and the mitigations as well.
So,
We could supply that engineering as well. We're planning on doing 2 concrete culverts down at the bottom to mitigate any runoff.
so,
I'd like to see a letter from the building inspector, that these things are taken care of before we proceed. Is that,
I think it's fine. I mean, basically,
We don't have a permit in front of us.
no, we,
An application for a permit,
no,
yeah.
well, we don't even know if one is required in terms of an intermittent stream. At this point, because, one of the things that's discussed by our building inspector is
Yes.
that. So I think all we can do at this point, I think we need to craft a very simple memo to the planning board. One is, our concern is what outstanding violations exist and what's being done to remediate them. I think, another obviously issue is if you and this would have to be answered by the town attorney, essentially these development districts, within subsection C, subsections 1 and 2, the maximum density, parentheses, conservation, shall be 2 acres. And 2, the minimum lot size shall be 2 acres. While it's not fully in our purview, that falls more to the planning board. This lot is not 2 acres.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions in here.
yeah, as well as, you know, the whole area is environmentally sensitive land.
So-
And the size of the lot does impact if there is a stream and a buffer. That means that there's less space for
Right.
any of the utilities or the footprint
Right.
for the home or the driveway.
Right.
Yeah, it's a difficult lot.
Yes.
So I think really, all we can do at this point is just point out unanswered questions to the planning board.
And then, yeah, I'll need to make an assessment, I guess, on the stream violation. for
Right,
Greg.
and then, the planning board and the town engineer will get back to us about what becomes within our purview. Some of it might not be.
But I would request that letter that he I don't know, request a letter of no violation and see what he comes back with officially, you know, just so that you guys get that process started and you have a document you can bring to all these boards now.
Yes.
And you can address it from his perspective, like Tony was kind of alluding to with a letter from him. That'd probably be the most official way to move forward with that.
I think it's a lot cleaner for everybody too.
Yes.
'Cause then you don't get a bunch of he said, she said.
Yes.
I didn't know, you know. I think that'd be a good starting point for you, and I think these guys agree with that.
Yeah, we're in the middle of trying to get the no violation letter from him. So we cleaned everything up to the best extent that we could. We're trying to leave the millings there since we're still gonna need them for construction. So we're working with Gary to see if we can legally bond for that violation. So we're in the process of that.
But I mean, then you can officially have him address all those points that he sent us in his email. I mean, you'll get,
Yes.
you
So,
know, and you'll actually be able to see what you're in violation of and not just, oh, I think it's this pile of X that was put here, or debris, or, you know.
yeah, we got the letter from him and we've been with our engineer fixing everything.
Right.
And then the only thing left to fix is the millings, but we're trying to bond that before asking him for a no violations letter.
I'm not, I can't picture the conservation overlay sensitive areas, which I think this might be within, which I think, if that were the case, then millings would not be a suitable form of fill
Right.
to be in that driveway.
I mean, yeah, and again, it's the intermittent water course also. I
Yeah.
mean, that's another whole other, we would need to have a permit from this board as well,
Okay.
you know. I mean, if he pointed it out and that's not really his lane, then I would say almost certainly you're gonna need a permit from us.
Okay.
This is just a general question.
By
How,
the microphone?
sorry. How, to the board, how can this go through a planning board when there are so many violations? Don't violations have to be cleaned up even before a planning board is looking at this? So then how does it end if I understand the flow, it kind of goes through the planning board, then they give it to us to write a memo saying, you know, whatever we do say. But how is it that it's even in our lap at this point if there's so many violations? And shouldn't the planning board be working to clean this up before they even begin putting, I mean, to me, it seems like kind of a hot potato to be sending to us that we're writing a memo with all these violations. Do we have to write this memo tonight? How, I mean, I guess I don't also understand, well, what would we put in our memo with all these violations?
Andy and I were talking about,
It's really a preliminary memo.
yeah, I was
Right.
saying, we
Right.
have been notified that there are an extensive amount of violations that are being rectified currently. How can we be part of this process currently?
Okay.
That would be one of my big
Okay.
ones, plus any concerns that you all had during the site visit, just
Okay.
about the constraints of the lot,
Yeah,
the
I mean, it is-
nonconformity with that, the zoning law.
Okay, because I know we can't, you know, I know it's up to the planning board to do these things, but that is a concern, even though it's not in our purview, I do know. But it seems that you know, that this is even going through the planning board with so many violations.
Cheryl, where is it
Bit
at
of
the
a head
planning
scratcher.
board? Where is this application with the planning board right now? Was it just originally first,
Waiting for, Greg was gonna weigh in on the bond option. We're waiting for that to have for their meeting.
okay, but
They've done a site visit.
They've done a site visit.
Referrals to us. And
so basically,
zoning.
they've met on it one time, and basically, the planning board at this point is referring out.
Yes,
Okay.
Do they know about the violation?
yes, I believe they're aware.
So I see it actually as a good thing that the planning board is actually asking for referral to us, to zoning, so that they're getting multiple opinions from different
Okay, I'm not
perspectives
saying it's
early.
good or bad, I'm
Yeah.
just questioning the process.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense, that's all.
Okay, so Max and I will craft a preliminary memo, which I think will be a first, rather than a memo.
Well, it'll have to be, because we need that information.
Yep,
On the
absolutely.
violations. And
Absolutely.
then we need some sort of a wetland delineation or
Yep.
determination
Yep,
on the property, and then we'll probably have to go back.
yep, absolutely.
This is not gonna be a fast process.
No.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, I was gonna suggest we make a motion to not have a meeting in August, since most of the other boards take a holiday.
So
Second
moved.
that.
First, do I have a second?
I think I'm gonna be away that week anyway, so
Okay.
I
all
don't
in
wanna miss
favor?
any good stuff.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, Max, do we have any unfinishes? or-
Yeah, minor stormwater updates. I met with our consultant that's working with us to develop our new stormwater management plan for the town. So that should be finalized probably this week. I've been working with the building department and Cheryl to set up a stormwater reporting email and phone number, which would be the building department essentially, to report any sort of stormwater issues or illicit discharge detection problems that citizens can email directly. So that should be up and running soon, and we're gonna be adding some stormwater videos to the webpage. But yeah, we're making some huge steps in getting back up to like the appropriate compliance levels. So once that stormwater management plan has been finalized, I will probably hold another SWAG stormwater group meeting with that core group. We'll look it over, and then that'll get voted on by the town board, I would assume, as an official document. And I believe the public have an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. So, and then I don't know if Andy, you saw, but did you see that the DEC sent out that conservation communities
Yes.
PDF? I don't know if you circulated that thing.
No, I didn't. I should.
When we took that photo down in the
Yeah.
front.
Wasn't a
That's
good
out.
photo.
Yeah, that was our finest hour.
Yeah, I'll distribute that.
You should send it to John too, just so he knows.
So, yeah, they ranked us very, very high.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I got one quick thing if we're done with that. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done, yeah.
When someone comes in front of us or other boards, and there's existing violations, shouldn't there be something on the permit that says, are there existing violations? Because that would help a lot. I mean, this is the second time
I believe that's on the building.
since I've been here
Yeah,
that,
but remember, we didn't get an application for a permit for this. This was a referral.
yeah, but they should, if they're gonna refer it, they should say, we're referring this to you, and by the way, there's 10 violations. I mean, I think it's only fair.
No, I mean, I guess what Tony's saying is whether it's a planning board application, ZBA application,
Right.
wetland application.
Yeah, for transparency,
Timber
it's a lot
harvesting.
nicer to know if there's
Yeah.
something going on, and
Yeah.
instead of finding out later.
Little communication
Yeah, but
We had
why-
actually
why
talked
was
about
the-
this.
Why was the application even transmitted to the boards?
That's my question.
you know?
Yeah, I don't want to throw shade on anybody else, but I think it might have been an oversight that's just done over the years.
But to your point, Tony, we had discussed, and this goes back several years, Lou and Andy may remember, the idea of there being kind of a jacket on every parcel's, like a folder jacket that kind of showed kind of a little bit of a history, like if there's any sort of, you know, there's anything that would be of note, that when the file is pulled, it's like, oh, okay.
yeah.
Or, you know, this has been a problematic, you know, parcel for 2 decades or something, we've had to have mitigation there, and, you know, just so that there's a little bit of a history that
That would
goes with
save
all
a-
this new stuff, because it's a little like Groundhog Day every time we see.
Something like that
Even
would
with an
also,
existing permit for me, apparently.
And it's hours before our meeting, and I finally get hold of the building guy. I mean, it should have been given
would-
to us so
I
we.
mean, this is back when Dave Klotzel, we talked about a jacket on every
I think
parcel's-
something,
Yeah.
that should be public information, because if someone's gonna buy a piece of property, and you say, okay, why is it so cheap, you know? And the realtor's not telling them, but, so then people can do due diligence by searching through the files and say, well, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't get this, I can't do anything with it. You know, and then that would save us time, the town time, and a lot of heartache for the poor guy who bought the place or family, because we've seen a lot of that, you know? People will come up here and say, oh, can we do this, can we do that? And, oh, no, I know that place, you know, but nobody notified the people, you know, it's not that they were notified, but there's no place for them to get that information, so it's kind of unfair to a young.
Well, they can dig in, they
Yeah,
can
well-
come here and they can ask to look at files. Or
Yeah,
They can go on.
before they
parcel.
buy it.
Right.
Because there's a lot of realtors out there that are, well, anyway, that's for another conversation, but.
So Max, I mean, this goes back a few years ago. You had started working on using the AIS GIS system.
GIS.
You know, basically a town mapper.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to it? Because you were close.
Yeah, no, we had it.
talked about that.
The license needs to get renewed, which is gonna be part of this stormwater thing probably for the most part. But even that, I think this application is bizarre because it was in front of the code enforcement officer for so long. I don't understand why it would even get transmitted, to be honest with you, because he still has an issue.
Right.
with
Well,
what's going
yeah,
on.
how did it get to the planning board?
That's what I'm
And then the
saying.
planning board
Usually what
went
happens-
on a site visit. They looked at it, they went on a site visit, and then they did referrals.
How was a variance issued?
So,
I don't,
But that's, okay.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't
But in terms of we have a program at the building department that if it's updated appropriately and correctly, all these things are digitally stored and we can access them all. Like we can access all the violations.
Can
And
the,
that was part of it too, we
will the
kind of were
public
like,
be able-
it'll
Yeah.
flash red, you know, like if you go to that parcel on the
Well, the
map.
thing with this property in particular is that they created the violations. So
Yeah.
they bought the property and then they created the violations. of
right,
the
right,
property.
right. But,
When you buy a piece of property and you want to build on it, you have to clear the violations. Or even when you buy the property that, I think before the sale is made, typically they have to clear the
they have to clear the
violation.
violation,
usually
if a
see
mortgage
it, yeah.
company's involved.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
if someone's
That's if it-
lending
yeah.
money.
Right, if it's
But-
cash, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Normally, very few people finance land. It's very difficult to do.
It is hard to,
Yeah, they won't give you money for that.
Right.
But like I said, in this case, the violations were created by the owner, so
Right.
it's not like they were stepping into this situation.
Yeah, and the upland, I don't know how much can be done on Ridge Road now, because I think the land trust owns a tremendous amount of it. Lots
that-
there.
yeah,
But on Upland Drive slash
and the town
Cliffside.
owns some.
Yeah, Cliffside is more problematic, you know, because within reason, they have to allow building, otherwise they get into inverse possession. But there's gotta be a better solution.
Yeah, I mean, there should be some kind of disclosure when you buy the property, you know, I don't know if you got it from a realtor, because realtors have to disclose things. If you got lead paint in the house or a known problem, there's just disclosure laws. So if someone's buying a piece of property and not being disclosed by the realtor, that you can't build on it, it's unfair for the people buying the property.
Right. I mean, I think what we're dealing though.
I know
with-
that's not our purview, but.
Right. What we're dealing with in Upland, though, is I think a lot of the land that's now on the market is coming from the county.
In the county?
From the county, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to straighten them out.
They don't have
Lou,
to auction- they auction
go over
the
there.
property across from us.
So,
Okay.
Maybe we should write a memo to
The county.
the town board and have them reach out.
yeah.
I mean, that's something I know John would
Yeah.
want to be aware of.
Right.
To reach out to the county
And say
about
why-
selling?
yeah,
So why are you
about
selling
giving it to the
properties that are
town or-
unbuildable?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when we were at the site visit, remember there was the pickup
Yeah.
truck, I walked down, I figured perhaps
He
that was the
exploring.
engineer.
Yeah.
He was a builder, and he said, no, there's, auctions coming up on lots here.
Yeah.
And that's tonight.
Oh, so we're gonna have more people in front of us.
Well,
Okay.
we're gonna see this more and more as building lots become more scarce in Philipstown. So it is the right moment for the town board to consider what happens going forward with some of these lots, because some of these lots are on really sensitive land.
Yep.
Well, especially if the county sell them, that's kind of disingenuous for the county to do that. Hey, here's a building lot. Oh, by the way, you can't do anything. We knew it.
Yeah, it's,
You know, it's just kind of,
I mean, I guess they're looking for revenue, but a lot of the lots that, I would say almost all the lots that the town owns, Putnam County got in receivership, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say in the eighties,
why don't you just put them all together
because
and make a
people were
park?
not paying taxes, and they transferred a tremendous amount of them to to Philipstown for like $1.
Yeah.
Why can't we, why don't we
$10
just make
Well, or
parkland
there
out
could
of it?
be consolidation, right?
Right.
So you could consolidate.
Well, that, I
a
think, is the
Huge number of lots and
that-
have it be one building site.
I think that was the spirit of this edition of 175, I guess it's chapter 18.2, was looking for consolidation. But still, you have somebody like.
Grand scale consolidation is what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I know. But we have somebody here that just bought an acre or 1.01 acres, which is a lot of these, and
Yeah,
it's totally non-conforming, and, the town is in a tough place, because if they say no, it's inverse possession, they have to pay for the lot.
But if it's totally against the zoning, they're
They still-
bound by their own law to say
it's
no.
but it's, no, because they're grandfathered
It's
in.
grandfathered, and I think the legal term is you're allowed investment-backed expectations from land. It doesn't mean you can build what you want, or this or that, but you're allowed something.
Okay.
So,
Well, don't buy any little pieces of property.
That's all I got.
That's the advice. We'll buy two and put them together. All right.
so, and not to mention, just off the record, two-bedroom house in Philipstown with this type of engineering.
A two-bedroom house in Philipstown would not be a terrible thing. There are buyers for that right now, I think, and, I can see in the right circumstance, somebody building a two-bedroom house. But this is, this is a lot to bite off for a two-bedroom house.
And also, does a two-bedroom house become like Airbnb?
Yeah, but we have no law against Airbnb in
No.
Philipstown.
That's a revenue maker that could be had. So, all right, with that said, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? A second?
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
I
I